Hi, welcome to the Quilting Life podcast. I'm Sherri McConnell.
And I'm Chelsi Stratton.
And this episode is airing on Monday, July 26, 2021. And we are super excited to share lots of new things, right?
We're really excited. As you can see, we have some new fabric on the table.
Yes.
That we're really, really excited to share and talk about.
Right.
So I feel like we've just been like bursting at the seams to share this with everyone.
Yes.
So without further ado.
Okay, well, first let me share this because everything else goes together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So just the other day, I received my advance copy of my A Quilting Life Home and Hearth book that's coming out September 1st with Martingale. And they wrapped it in this pretty little ribbon. And
so cute.
It's always so much fun. Even though I've seen all of the page layouts online, it's so much fun to hold it in your hand and
it's the real deal.
Flip through the pages. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and they did a fabulous job with this. There are 12 larger projects, quilts and table runners and pillows. And then there are 3 bonus projects at the back of the book that I'm super excited, some sewing accessories, but more about that later. I just wanted to share that it's actually a real thing now. So
no, I'm really excited because I feel like literally you were working on that forever ago. You know, the process of writing a book and the whole thing is very interesting, and the time frame of it is just, you know, it's a big project.
Yes.
It's a long process. And so just to see it after you've been working on it for so long is probably so cool.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for you.
Congratulations,
Mom.
Thank you. Yeah, I started it right as the pandemic was starting.
And that's what I remember is you working on it then and just all of a sudden fruition, you know.
Yes. Okay, so on the table we have Seashore Drive.
Seashore Drive is our newest fabric collection. We are so excited about it. If you're watching on YouTube, we have a fat quarter bundle on the table, as well as the cap sets in every colorway. So this collection has so many of our staple low volume prints, a very pretty citrine green, our traditional corals, a beautiful orchid color, aqua, turquoise, light gray, and a darker charcoal gray. And just very bright, very fun. And we're just super excited about it. So we can't wait for you all, stay tuned on our social medias. We're going to be sharing, you probably have seen our quilts and things, but just very, very excited about these bright, vibrant colors. And so, we're really excited.
I thought maybe I was going to ask Billy this before we started taping, but I'll just ask you now.
Yeah.
Could we just film like a quick little video later and flip through these cap sets and then have you insert it in here?
Yeah.
Or just do the separate video.
Or some pictures.
Yeah. No,
I'll get a picture today.
Yeah. If you're watching, I'll put up like either a video or picture thing of like more of an up close. Is that what you're
I thought that would be
about?
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think stay tuned on the YouTube for a fabric video where Billy and Mom and I go over, all of the prints and colors separately too. That way everyone can get a detailed look at kind of, all of the prints and colors as well.
Right.
Yeah. And then another thing to note, since this is coming out on the 26th, we're filming this like a week and a half early because I'm going on a little trip and so is my mom next week. So we had to get some stuff. But are there going to be some quilt videos that will have already been released?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
right. Next week, which would have been like, so the 22nd and then maybe one on Saturday of Chelsi's or we'll see. But there will probably be a couple videos about some of these quilts on YouTube even before this podcast is released.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So more to come on Seashore Drive, and it's just going to be kind of an overload, but really, really exciting stuff where it's been refreshing to sew with this collection, I know, for both of us. So
yeah. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
actually going to talk about the collection a little bit more, but I'll let you talk about your quilts first.
Yeah, I saw the question, so I didn't want to give too much away from those. Okay, so I have the quilts today. These are 2 of my new Seashore Drive quilt patterns. The quilt on the wall is called Summertime. I love this quilt. Marion did some amazing quilting on it. It is fat eighth friendly, and it measures 64 by 76. Shows off all of the fun, bright, bold colors. So a lot of fun. And then on the table, we have a quilt called Morning Walk. Billy will put a picture up of that. It is also fat eighth friendly and measures 61 by 61, just like kind of the perfect size for a lap quilt and to hang on a ladder over a couch. So, and of course, log cabins are my favorite blocks ever. So I just had to do a quilt in that. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's start talking about the fabric. I wanted to start with the first one, the backstory of the name Seashore Drive, because I think we might have mentioned this last time that I've been itching to use this name for quite a while, and we just never had the right group. And
It was never right before. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this one came together, and then we added in the text print that really like solidified that this was a seashore type inspired collection.
Yeah.
So, Seashore Drive was the name of the street that this vacation rental was on that we stayed in 4 years in a row, the same house on the same street, the same pier, and
Same time of year.
yeah, we went the same week every year with our extended family, my in-laws.
Literally this week would have been it.
Yeah,
in
that
real
we're
time.
taping.
Yeah, that we're taping. It
Yeah.
was always during Mom's birthday. So
Yeah. So we got really familiar with the house and with the area, and it was just great memories when our kids were younger, and they had their cousins there, and it was just it's just a wonderful recollection, and I feel like this fabric collection just nails it actually for what it is supposed to be. So
totally. I feel the same. Just so many memories made, and just kind of cool for us that was the name that was seamless for this collection. So,
And it was at Newport Beach.
Yes.
Was where we were.
Newport
I don't
Beach.
think you mentioned that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Newport Beach, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and there were so many fun things. There was this lifeguard school that always took place Monday through Thursday or Friday.
Oh my
Right in
goodness.
front of our house. So there were always all these kids learning how to be junior lifeguards.
Yeah. And they would have breaks and we would like talk to them. And
Right.
yeah, they had all of these skills tests that they had to complete and we would just watch them. It was super, super cool.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
then
so many fun memories.
Yeah.
But it was always nice because it was, like you said, middle of July every year. So it's 110 degrees in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
Logandale, and then it was an escape. It was sort of like the last thing we could do before summer vacation was over for like me, like because that happened when I was in high school every year. So
Right.
for me, it was like, okay, I get to do this, and then I got to go home, and then I start football practice, which is in 110 degree heat.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
in the mornings and evenings, but it's still hot. So it was like my last thing, and then it's like back to business for school and sports and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great family reunion / vacation every year.
Yeah.
Good memories. We're
Yeah.
so grateful
And
for that.
I just thought of this one thing. My in-laws would always pay for the house, so we just had to get there and pay for our own food and stuff. But my sister-in-law would always make one of those 7-layer dips.
Yes,
Remember? Like there's all these
yes.
little memories that I have. And
Yeah.
my niece, gathering all the younger cousins to play cards.
Yeah, she was great at that.
So,
And Billy would always get his own room, but
Really?
Yeah. Well, he shared with probably Sean. They had the bunk
Huh.
bedroom. Remember, because all of the other cousins had to sleep on the second level on the floor, and Billy always had that bunk bedroom downstairs or whatever.
Oh.
I remember that.
That's fun.
Lots of maybe a little favoritism. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We have to talk to the grandparents about that. So
good memories.
okay, so this collection will be shipping in January 2022. Just want to put that out there. But
yes.
Shops are able to order it right now. So if you love it, please talk to your favorite shop.
Yes, let your favorite shops know.
Yes.
We would appreciate it so much.
Yeah. And just the last thing that we had on our notes was we kind of thought of it as a little sister line to Balboa, and it does work well, but it has its own vibe. It's a little bit lighter and brighter, I feel like. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree.
Okay.
I think so. While I was like doing up all the drawings and all the colors and everything, I initially was like, yeah, sister line to Balboa, of course. Mm-hmm. But it really stands on its own as well. So I feel like it stemmed from that, like the origin of it. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a strong collection. But I think people will be able to see the similarities while also being like, well, it's totally different too, right. Like, which is cool for us, I feel like. So yeah, just an evolution of ideas and fabric collections. And we really wanted it to be bright and bold and so summery and happy and just, yeah. This collection was actually very easy for me to design. It didn't feel like very forced at all, and it just really has the best mix of florals and basic prints. Just like the perfect little mix. And the gingham print in here, you guys, when you're able to see that, oh my goodness, it's so cute. It's adorable. So yeah.
I used it as binding for several awesome projects on the bias, and it's so fun.
Yes, I loved that you did that. See, I used gingham for every binding, but I didn't do it on the bias, and I still love it.
Yeah.
The checkered look, but yours gives almost like a cross stitch kind of like look because you did it on the bias, which is really cool. So just a couple options when people are choosing bindings. So,
and I am working on a quilt with just Balboa and Seashore Drive.
Cool.
So when I get that done, we'll share it. But so if you have any scraps from Balboa, it is a fun mix to mix them together. Because we had actually asked for this color in Balboa, remember?
Yeah.
Similar color, and we didn't. We got it in Happy Days, the next collection.
Yeah, this is actually a shade different.
It's a shade
from Happy
different,
Days.
but yeah, similar.
Yeah, very similar.
But it is fun to have it with kind of the Balboa mix.
Yes.
I feel like.
So this shade is, so I love anything citrine. And
right.
We've played with, well, there's two shades. You can either go more green on the Bella Solids or you can go more yellow.
Right.
And so for this one, I chose the more yellow option.
Right. Yeah.
We chose the more yellow option and it just fit kind of perfect.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then also, I did 4 new quilts with this collection, so you'll see those other 2 later on. And how many did you end up doing? I can't remember.
I did 4 quilts. I've already made a table runner, a table topper, and I also did a project. It's good I should announce this because it was for American Quilt Retailer, and it's going to be in their August issue, and it's a free pattern, and I did it with Seashore Drive fabrics. And so if you are a shop owner, you'll be seeing that very soon, and you can make it with mini charms or with a charm pack. And there's a little, it'll be, the pattern will be in that issue, and you can use it in your shops. So
that's so cool.
So that'll be, we'll be able to share that soon as well.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so we have a second topic we kind of want to go into on today's podcast, just talking about choosing fabrics that work together for a quilt/project.
Hey, let me cut you off before you jump into that because I just had one question about your fabric. So, you guys, in the last episode, we showed your very first fabric line, and you talked about how that was sort of the trend at that time. It fit for 7 years ago and everything. So I just had one question as you guys were talking about it. Do you think this fabric line represents like trends that are going on right now? Or is this
I feel like
unique
it's
or
classic summer.
yeah? Okay, so it's not anything like. Do you know what I mean? Because you mentioned that the last fabric line
Yeah.
was really fit in for what was in right there. Is this something that's similar to right now, or do you think this is more? I don't know.
So I
General.
have to say this. I don't think it's quotation trendy, something that will go out of, something that will go out of style quickly. I don't think it's that. But I love that you brought that because there are trends within the fabric line, but just as far as it being bright and bold, that's really popular. But yeah, I still think timeless. There are some really, really traditional timeless prints in here. So yeah, kind of both, but I like that you brought that up because yeah, I wouldn't say it's, oh, that's trendy right now. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know if that's a bad thing to say either. I could cut it
No,
out. If we
no,
need to.
no, no, no. I'm glad like you brought that up because quilters are always asking about changes and trends in the industry, and so I feel like when I'm designing fabric, I'm never like online, like, well, what's trendy? What are the colors? What are this? And I would have to say, I think I kind of used to do that. I used to be like, well, what's in right now? I feel confident that this is a timeless, beautiful collection. And yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like it really just says vintage summer with the gingham. You kind of think of those 50s scenes. The gingham was so prevalent, and the florals and just the two-tone. I just feel like it's just really vintage summer. But I do feel like it mixes in with what's going on today in the world of color because it is a little bit lighter and bright,
Yes.
but bright at the same time. And so I feel like that's very today, but also very classic, the feel of it.
I almost wish we had our catalog description right here because it perfectly sums it up. Just everything about those summers in California at Newport Beach was really describes it perfectly. I talk about walking on the pier, and I talk about the brightly colored and patterned seashells. I talk about going to that small ice cream shop to get pistachio ice cream. Like, it just all really stems from those things. So,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, as the guys jump into the next topic, then I was going to give you also a little background of where that came from. Again, looking from suggestions that listeners gave. One thing that was brought up a lot was people asking questions about choosing fabric before you start a quilt or project. And what I mentioned is, because they requested, like, if you guys could do a deep dive on that, because some people were saying, I pick fabric, I think everything looks really good, it's all set, I jump into it, and then I'm halfway through the project, or I'm to a point where there's nothing I can do and I don't like it. And at that point they feel like it's too late, and it's like, maybe it's not ruined or everything, but it just doesn't look as good as they would have liked it to be. So so I threw some combination of different questions that hopefully go along well with that, and maybe you guys could give some advice and tips and things to help people figure out, how to choose fabric so they don't have to, so they don't end up feeling like if it didn't look as good as it could have.
When I saw this question, the first thing I thought of was an experience that happened quite a while ago. My grandmother, who I've talked about before, was a quilter, and she had 3 sisters. And as each one of them had their 50th wedding anniversary, she made a wedding anniversary quilt for them. And my grandmother was married twice, and my grandfather, her second husband, actually passed away before, they could reach that milestone of 50 years. But her youngest sister reached out to me and she said, your grandma made us these beautiful quilts for our wedding anniversaries. And I'd really like to do a quilt for her and have it be a family quilt. And we could all do blocks. And she said, at that time, I had just kind of started to quilt. And she said, would you make the quilt? And she said, I'll sew the blocks together and hand quilt it myself. And so I was super excited that my aunt had reached out to me, my great aunt had reached out to me for this. And so I said yes. And so this was really fun because my great aunt drew up the pattern, and it was a simple snowball pattern, 9 patches and snowballs. And she called it Jean Snowball. My grandma's first name was Jean. And so she just drew it up on paper, and I was so afraid to pick out fabrics for it because I was a new quilter, and we were going to actually have members of the family cross stitch on an embroider on some of the blocks so that everybody would have their name on a block. And anyway, but my aunt, not my great aunt, my aunt, my mom's sister, was an avid needle worker at the time, and she and I had done some needlework classes together. And she was just very good with color because of working with threads all of the time. And so I called her and said, would you go with me to the quilt shop to help me pick out this fabric? And she said she would. And it was wonderful because she really did have she had lots of experience with putting threads together. And so we went to the quilt shop, and she ended up purchasing all the fabric too, which was great because I was just a young mom, and it was kind of pricey. So so she helped me pick out the fabric. We picked it out. I made all the blocks, and then I mailed the blocks to the family members that were going to need embroidery or stitching. And then when everybody finished them, I guess I did put it together. Yes, they mailed them back to me, and I sewed the quilt top together and then shipped it to my great aunt, and she hand quilted it, and they presented it to my grandmother at a family reunion back in Iowa. And it was just, and I actually have this quilt now. So I was lucky enough to, since I had done all of the stitching when my grandmother passed away, I was lucky enough to get this one. But the reason I brought it all up was that color selection can be learned. I feel like I'm good at it now.
100%.
I wasn't then. It's a good thing that nobody told me, oh, you're not a natural, don't even try. It's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, It's a good thing that, so what I'm going is I have people say this to me in classes that I teach all the time. And I say, you're going to get it. Just keep working at it.
Yeah.
It can be learned.
Yeah.
Is what I was saying. And it can translate from one, whether fashion, embroidery, knitting, whatever.
To everything.
Yes. So I guess that took a little bit of time.
No, I love that you brought that up. Was this the family reunion I was at? Or no?
We went to one, the one that we took all of you to was before this quilt had been made.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
yes.
Because I was like, why don't I have any recollection of this?
Yeah. No, but that family reunion was before the quilt.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, I love that you brought that up because that's so true. I've had people message me about, color combinations, or they made a quilt and they were like, this did not turn out how I thought it was going to turn out. Yeah, it just takes practice. And I feel like that's, for me, how I learned. It was trial and error. Someone messaged me the other day and said, well, how long have you been quilting? And I'm like, not a very long time, 6 years, which now I guess to me seems like a long time. But yeah, it was like trial and error, and then working with different kinds of colors later on. And so, yeah, you learn it and it comes though. So
yeah. I was thinking also Moda and coming up with the pre-cuts.
Yes.
And by that, so much of that credit, if not all of that credit, needs to go to Lisa Alexander for coming up with that idea. Really made it easier for the average quilter, not only to be able to afford a piece of every print in a collection,
Exactly.
right? But to have them coordinated.
Yep. And have all of the colors that go together and are specifically designed to go together.
Right.
Genius
Yes.
idea. Yeah.
And every fabric company does that now. And that's a great way to start if you're unsure about color is pick a charm pack or a jelly roll or a bundle of that you like. And, a lot of the work is done for you.
Exactly.
Right there.
Yeah.
So
like at one point you were both in the same situation that I mentioned before of like you thought you had it and then you'd look at it and you weren't as happy with the finished product. Like I'm talking early
totally.
on in your
definitely.
career. So it was just a trial and error process that eventually you figured it out over time. Yeah.
Yeah. And most times I would go ahead and finish the quilt. I can only, there's maybe only one I didn't finish. And it was so frustrating for me because I knew I just wasn't happy with it.
Yeah.
But everything else I just finished and pushed through.
Yeah.
Learning process.
I feel like I finished most of them as well, even if I didn't love them.
Yes.
I have a fall quilt that I'm thinking about in particular. It's just so convoluted. I didn't put enough empty space in there. I do still use it. I roll it up and put some other fall quilts rolled up with it. It's kind of in the back.
Sort of a good idea.
Yeah. Because, back then especially, it was expensive to buy the fabric and then to have it quilted.
You don't want it to go to waste. So you're like, no, I am going to finish this quilt and we're going to make something of this. If I have to gift it, if I have to put it in the back of the basket,
Right.
Yeah. But we all have them. Like, you're not alone. Everyone has a quilt that they're like, I don't like that. The color was wrong. Like,
Yeah.
but that's okay. It's all part of the process.
Yeah. And I feel like back then too, I just avidly looked at quilt magazines and books and just to get the sense of it all. And now, of course, we have the internet, we have Pinterest, we have Instagram.
Yeah.
To where you can look at color combinations and, make notes about things you like and things you don't like. If you, it's, you're going to have strong feelings about stuff. And if you like it or you don't like it, make a note.
It's good you brought that up because Instagram in particular has a save feature. So if you really, really like a quilt that you're scrolling through and you see, whoa, this color combination is great. I like this pattern. You save that. Maybe you go back, you purchase the pattern later and you buy similar fabrics.
Right.
So it is different now than it was then. You have social media to help you with you have this plethora of quilts on social media that you can choose from with various prints and colors, which is really cool. So that process can seem easier if you're like, I'm making that quilt with those colors. Like, you go to the quilt shop and you say, hey, this is what I want. And I think quilt shops like that. That's why they kit things themselves. Mm-hmm. Somebody walks in, I want to make that quilt on the wall. And the shop owner says, I have a kit for you right here. You can make this. And that's what's nice about that. So,
that's also one of my favorite things about teaching. It's, I'm usually teaching one of my own patterns. But before class, I love walking around the room and seeing the fabrics that everyone is using.
Yes.
Yeah. And, usually some are using my fabrics, trying to make it similar to the quilt or identical. But sometimes you see all of these other combinations and you're just like, wow, that is going to be stunning.
Yeah.
In particular, I remember I can't remember the collection she used, but she combined it with the Moda Grunge from Basic Gray. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yes. And it was in all these jewel tones. And I just remember thinking, I would never have put that collection with those grunge, but it was stunning. And that happens all the time when you see stuff.
That's my favorite part of a class though.
Yeah.
Because when you're making something you really love, I'm always like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to go back and make it in fall colors. I'm going to go back and make it in Christmas. And you go to a class and all these people are already doing that. And you're
Right.
like, oh, wow. Like they're doing every option I wish I had time to make. Like, so it's cool to see it. So
Yeah.
that's always interesting.
Yeah. So Billy has some good questions for us. Did we even talk before beginning a new project or quilt? What goes into your process for selecting fabric? So
I'm going to say this right off the bat. I need a good mix of brighter print colors and low volumes. I'm going to use both in a quilt every single time to create space. I think it's awesome if you're able to use both. So, and floral and basic prints. Sometimes I don't like having too many florals, like if you're doing something more scrappy. Like if you're just focusing on one print per block, it's fine. But I like to add, prints and colors go together for me always. So I'm going to group them together.
yeah.
So yeah, I like to have just an even mix of both.
Yeah.
And an even amount of colors. Unless I'm doing something scrappy. I could talk about this two different ways. So just having a good even mix
Yes.
of colors.
I remember hearing Adita
Oh, I love her.
of Laundry Basket Quilts talk one time, and she talked about, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but she had 5 basics: a dot, a stripe, a large floral, a small floral, and maybe like a geometric or paisley. I can't remember what, but she had like kind of 5 elements that she said in this talk that she liked to put together in one quilt. And I love it. And I was just looking at, our text print kind of functions as the stripe, and then we have the gingham, and we have the large floral, and we have the small ones, and we have this geometric print right here.
Yeah.
And then the tiny floral, we kind of
did it, Adita.
Yes.
We did it.
So, yeah, I think it's good to work with all of those things. And I'm like you, I love mixing in the low volumes. I have to have open space for my eyes to rest.
Always.
It can't be too convoluted.
Yeah. I think I don't know if it's just my brain, but I'm the same way. I have to have some type of space, or I don't know, it messes with me. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although there are some people, I'm thinking Jen Kingwell, she is so
she does it perfectly.
Yes, she creates that space even though her quilts are very busy. Somehow she creates that space and they're pleasing to look at.
Yeah.
Even though there are so many things going on in her quilts.
Yeah.
They have.
She just posted a quilt the other day where I thought the same thing. I'm like, wow, that is so different than what I would do.
Yeah.
But that's Jen. That's how Jen, that's her superpower.
Yes. Yeah.
So like when you see a brand new pattern, like I know these patterns you have here are showcasing your fabric. So
Yeah.
I mean, you guys designed the fabric to coordinate with each other. So I'm not taking away from your quilts that you use to display your new fabric, but it does probably work well together just naturally because you
Totally.
already designed the fabric, which is a whole nother process, right? But say someone wants to buy one of these new patterns, but obviously this fabric's not shipping till next year, and they want to make it right away. Shoot, I've sort of lost my train of thought here, but like what goes into that without already preset coordinated fabrics to do it?
So that's a great question. And that's one of the main reasons I do pre-cut friendly quilts, because they can't get this fabric right now, until January. But I've made it specifically. Well, you can also use yardage, but it's pre-cut friendly. So they could go and say, well, I'm going to buy a fat eighth bundle of Vanessa Gertzen's line that just came out because it's pre-cut. It's a fat
So just
eighth
use
pre-cut.
another fabric line that's already out.
Yeah, just use another fabric line that's already out. If you are like, I got to make this quilt now, or what I've also seen is people will just take like colors because they love the colors so much, or they'll use solids. But no, I totally see what you're saying, but that's why I love making my quilts pre-cut friendly.
Another thing they do is that I've seen a lot of people do is they'll use an earlier collection. So you'll come out with a new pattern. Often your previous collection is just hitting stores right about then. And so they can make that new pattern with those other fabrics.
Yeah.
And sometimes a lot of designers will even go back and mock up their new patterns with their older collections, kind of to help people out and say, look, you might not have this available just yet, but if you really want to make it now,
Happy Days pre-cuts just shipped.
Right.
And these would look adorable in Happy Days pre-cuts, which is really cool. So if you just can't wait and you want to make it, which we love, we want to see people, making these quilts and loving them and using them. So
yeah. And also I'm thinking my sweet quilt, the grandmother's flower garden blocks in Happy Days. Right after I made that, I made another one in Christmas fabrics.
Yes, you did.
And just to show
Beautiful.
people how it could translate into other fabrics.
Yeah. Okay, so how important is the process of selecting fabric before beginning a project? When is the point of no return? And I'm thinking of that movie.
Oh.
What book is it?
I don't know.
The Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I could sing. I could watch that movie a million times. I have, and sing the soundtrack to it. Gerard Butler, guys, he did a fantastic job in the later rendition of that movie.
I'll have to do a bonus episode of you singing.
Yeah. No, but this is a great question.
I like that movie.
No, but this is a great question because really sometimes you kind of get that sense as you're starting a project, ooh, I'm not liking this that much.
Yeah.
And so when is the point of no return is a great question. I always make a test block first.
Yeah.
Whether it's my own
that's smart.
My own new pattern, or I think I started that too when I was sewing a lot for other people. Make the test block and make sure the vibe with the fabrics is good. I think if you've made I think there's never a point of no return. You can quit a project at any time, I feel like.
I like that answer. I also have a different answer.
Okay.
No. I really, really like that answer. Because, technically there's not. But I feel like this is why I always suggest lay out the pieces that are going to be in your blocks and look at it and see if you're really going to like it. I take several pictures throughout a project, even though I've mocked it up in EQ even.
Right.
And I'll be like, do I like that? Once you start sewing your blocks together, my mental phrase in my head is like, Chelsea, you are not going to want to have to unpick that. So you better like it once you sew the block. Once I sew the block together, I feel like that's my point of no return.
Because you've invested so much time.
Because I've invested. I'm not going to sit there and pick the whole thing. Like, that's just my attitude.
Oh, yeah.
And so kind of that's my point of no return for me. But even after that, say you have sewn all of your blocks together. This is why it's also so important to lay out all the blocks and see, okay, is the quilt going to be visually appealing? And there's most times tweaks you can make. You could be like, well, you know what? I'm going to add sashing, create more space in this quilt. There are things you can do to, change the outcome, I would say. But yeah, I loved your answer too. So
yeah, and something you just said just made me think too. There have been times when I haven't loved all of the blocks, but once I lay it out and put the sashing in, maybe there are one or two blocks. They don't bother me anymore.
Exactly.
Because the sashing brightens them up or changes them in some way with that space. So, if you're liking a good majority of the blocks, don't just quit.
Don't give up.
Right. And even if you look at the most beautiful scrap quilts, you can probably find a piece of fabric in there that you think is pretty ugly. Yeah. But the same thing in a quilt. Every block doesn't have to be perfect to add to the beauty of the quilt.
Exactly.
So, my other suggestion on this one too was if you're going to make a big investment in making a quilt, make a small project first. Get a mini charm pack. Make a pot holder. Make a placemat. See what you like when you put all those fabrics together and what you don't like. And maybe sometimes take a few prints out and don't use them in your quilt.
Yeah, I have totally done that. Or even an entire colorway. I've been like, I'm not using that colorway.
Right.
But I'm going to use all these other colorways in the quilt.
Right.
And yeah, no, that's a great idea.
So
That's a great idea.
yeah. Okay.
Ooh.
We already kind of talked about, does it make it easier to select fabric when you're using pre-cuts for a quilt? So we've covered that. Tips and tricks when looking at a new, Are there any tips or tricks when looking at a new pattern that will help you select fabric that will work for that particular quilt pattern? Good question.
And I guess I sort of, that without even thinking about it, that's sort of what I was asking earlier with that. But
yeah.
so I know
did we
obviously,
cover that already
obviously
then?
picking another fabric line, but like what if someone wasn't just to use one fabric line? What if you were just to go off of your scraps or something, which included a lot of different fabric
That's
lines?
my favorite quilt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how would you do that? And I guess, again, me coming from an outsider's perspective, you guys mentioned a lot of other things. I always just think if I walk out and I have a shirt that doesn't match my pants, then I get called out for it. You know, like
Right.
I just think like colors, but you guys are much more advanced than that.
Well-
So maybe I'm not thinking of it right.
I feel like you're not really an outsider anymore after filming hundreds and hundreds of hours of quilting videos.
Yeah,
You have
sort of, yeah.
Yeah, so you're behind the camera with all of that. But yeah, I love putting all of our collections together, and I
Same
know
here.
you do too. Those have been some of my favorite quilts whenever I do a sew along. That's what I usually do.
Yeah.
Whether it's blockheads or I'm doing the sampler spree sew along right now, and did the socialites. It's really fun to mix fabrics. But the other thing I was thinking about too, you had a question on here that are there certain colors that should be avoided being used together? And I think for everybody that's different. I don't really like brown, so I can't ever see
Brown
myself
in our collection.
using a brown. What do you think? I'm okay with beige and taupe, but
I feel like I'm okay using every color. It depends on the shade.
Yeah.
There are specific shades that I'm like, I cannot use that shade
Right.
like at all. It's just not me. It's not something I would particularly love looking at.
Right.
So yeah, I totally feel that. Like, I get what you're saying. There's like certain colors that you like gravitate to less.
Right.
And that's okay because you don't have to use those. Yeah, I feel like brown is typically never in my quilts. I feel like a taupe is though.
Yeah.
And that's kind of in that category of colors.
Right.
But
I guess, I do make fall quilts. When I make fall quilts, I often use fig tree fabrics.
yeah.
And she has some browns, but it's like
It's
you
a
said, it's a
specific-
specific shade.
It's a specific shade. I just
Yes.
I'm working on a fall project right now and there's browns in it, but they're a specific shade.
Right.
They're like the perfect shade of brown. They're not really like dark and muddled and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
And-
I think
and
it just depends.
Yeah. And just
I don't like saying that I would ever not like that I would leave out any specific color but I would say certain shades of certain colors.
Right.
So I guess that's how I would phrase that.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of that Folktale collection by Vanessa Gertzen.
it's
It has
perfect.
some browns in there that I've
Yeah.
loved. And you're
Yeah.
right. They're a certain shade
They're
of
a certain
brown.
shade. Yeah.
So-
What about bright green and bright purple? That doesn't go good
well,
together, right?
I mean,
But those are sort of like
In a-
lighter colors, huh?
In
yeah.
a modern quilt mixed with other solids and other bright colors, it,
Totally.
it
That would work?
could.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually know what you're saying though, because sometimes when I'm working with purples, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't let it look like Barney the dinosaur because that would just scare me half to death. Like, so
But you loved Barney when you were little.
Yes, you did.
I did.
I wanted to throw that VHS in the garbage can.
Oh my
but-
goodness. I have to find it now.
Billy tried throwing it away multiple
I
times.
have to find it.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yes, and that's the thing is I loved Barney, or sometimes just like specific, exactly what you said. I'm like, oh, certain colors can't go together. Like, oh my goodness, that's hilarious. No, I feel like whatever is visually appealing to you, like you're not going to force yourself to use colors you don't like. You just aren't. You're gonna use colors that you love and you think go together. So yeah.
And I was thinking, just to kind of sum it up, your ability to choose fabrics, you're on a journey with that too, just like you're on a journey with your quilting skills.
Exactly.
Right. So as your seams and your blocks get better, as you spend more time doing it, so does your aspect of color selection also get better and
I
improve.
love that.
So,
It really is a journey. It's a journey. I love that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
I think this was a really great topic. We're so grateful for all of the questions and for Billy taking all those questions and putting them together for this topic poll today.
Yeah.
So
We're also just so excited that we were able to tie it in with our newest fabric collection and just, so.
yeah. Okay.
I guess a little preview of things to come is that
Yes.
hopefully we will be having some interview episodes here with some people that people will be
Fun things
excited to hear
planned.
Yes.
from.
I've reached out to a couple people recently and got one yes already and waiting on the
Yay.
other. And then, actually we have another interview too. So we've actually got 3 or 4 in the works. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, so those will be coming up.
Yeah. This next episode will air on Monday, August 9th,
Oh, that's when school starts for my
2021.
kids.
Oh, is that the first day of school?
That's the first day of school. That is so crazy.
Oh, wow. They're
Summer's
starting-
almost over.
I know.
That's so early for them to start,
It's so early.
but that's probably good with all of the missed school over the past.
Yeah. They need it. They're ready.
Yeah.
So August 9th, this next episode will, the next episode.
Yes.
So
Okay. Well, thanks so much for stopping by.